we are going to start with the lesson atom. Before going to the detail of various the things that is there in this lesson, as you see, the name itself suggests that we are going to talk about atoms and its various particles. So the main concentration of this chapter will be to study about various atomic theories, and from that theory how we know about the atom. So as we know that the first theory of atomic theory was proposed by Dalton, and we know it as a very famous Dalton's atomic theory, where Dalton had said that atoms cannot be divisible. It is the smallest structure of matter, and atom cannot be divisible, and based on that then we have various other chemists coming, and they had given the whole periodic table and various other elements and their name and their atomic structure and all those things. So the whole of this elementization and various categorization and study about various elements and various matters were actually preliminary done based on Dalton's atomic theory, where he said that atoms is the smallest existing structure and you cannot divide it, it is the smallest one. But what we see around 1897, we have seen when we were studying about the discharge through the gas inside the discharge tube, and we see that inside the discharge tube, when the electric discharge through the gas, while studying those phenomena, J.J. Thomson was the person who first discovered that there is something called cathode ray, and particles are coming out from cathode, and he has first identified these particles as the electrons, and therefore electrons mass and electrons charge was predicted and calculated, and finally by J.J. Thomson it was said, when he found electron, he said that this electron is very light than and basic or we can say the basic one atom, that is hydrogen atom. So it is even lighter than the single atom. So it means that atom can be divisible, and it has there is a lighter particle called electron which exists in nature, and therefore it is a subatomic particle. So from there the whole concept came into the picture that atoms are divisible, and whole atomic theory came, and the whole knowledge of inside atom and subatomic particles have come into the picture. So it is at 1898 where Thomson was working with this electric discharge tube, which we have studied earlier, and he said that electron exists, and from there he found that electron is a subatomic particle. It is smaller in mass and in charge. So thereby around 1898 he proposed a model for atom. He said that atom is like a structure, a round structure, where the electrons and these particles are just surrounding everywhere it is surrounded. So it means that if there is this negative particle, atom as a whole is neutrally electrically it is neutral. So means if there is negative electrons are coming out, then therefore there will be a positive some charges or some particle which has the equal and opposite charge of electron, which he says that this positive charge and the electron, this both will be there in the kind of atom. It is just scattered around, and this model he called this model, or this model we call it as plum pudding model. So why it is called plum pudding model? Because he said that how in a pudding the plums will be all scattered around the atoms, on the surface of the pudding, how the plums will be everywhere just stuck in. So same way inside the atom all these charged particles are just stuck everywhere, like how the plums are stuck in the pudding. So that's how this model is called plum pudding model. Not very late, around 1911, it was Rutherford and his few suggested people who have done alpha particle scattering, and in alpha particle scattering he had sent this alpha particle, which are basically the helium nucleus, human particle, helium particle. So this helium particles he bombarded, and these alpha particles were bombarded with gold atom. So when he did this alpha particle experiment, and he found very interesting observations, and from there he understood that definitely inside the atom things are not scattered like that, as said by Thomson in plum pudding model. So he started, and with the observation from this alpha particle scattering experiment, with those observations very scientifically, he had given us what is called Rutherford atomic model. And this, according to his model, the positive charges are centered around, which he called as nucleus, and surrounding this nucleus there are various orbits in which these electrons are roaming around. It's very much like how the solar system is. So at the center there is sun, and around the solar system in the circular orbit these electrons are the planets are revolving. Same way, according to the Rutherford, the nucleus and all the positive charge with almost all the mass is centered at the center of the atom, and the electrons are orbiting in the circular orbit around this nucleus. So this is the Rutherford's model which he had proposed, and this whole thing has come from alpha particle scattering experiment. Now, not very late, around 2 years, we see that though this Rutherford's model were able to explain many things, but it was not able to explain the spectrum that we get from any kind of element. So it was able to explain certain thing, but what we see that every element has got certain spectrum, which we will study later. So the spectrums where Rutherford model were not able to analyze why we get this particular line type of spectrum. When it comes, according to the Rutherford model, it has to be continuous emission of energy, and then we should not get the line spectrum, but then it was not able to explain. So here comes the Bohr with his atomic model, and he had given he had added to it a little bit of quantum theory, and then he was able to explain various other things. Along with that, he explained why we got the this spectrum. So his atomic model also more or less remains the same, and he was able to explain the certain like hydrogen and helium, certain elements spectrum he was able to explain. But this theory, the Bohr's atomic theory, though it became very famous because the first quantum usage was put in here, and then it was able to explain various things in the atomic theory or atomic model. So therefore Bohr's atomic model is very much important as well as very interesting, but it was not able to explain the spectrums of a complex element. If the elements were a very complex type, then the spectrum, why those type of spectrum was coming, Bohr's theory could not explain that. So therefore, after that, Sommerfeld's relativistic model has come into the picture, which was able to explain few more things, but not as a whole. And finally, now what we have is called the vector model of atom, which is fairly pretty much everything it explains. So right now we would be not going into detail of all these things, but this is the pretty much the various atomic theory and various atomic model that we have. And for now, the most highest level of study of atomic theory and explanation of all the happenings inside the atomic level and subatomic particles and various nature and various phenomena that we see inside is pretty much able to explain. We can explain using the vector model of atom. So this is what the final thing that we are looking at. So this is as a whole the atomic theories and atomic models of the atom that we are able to study.
If you like the video, then press the like button, subscribe to the channel and press the bell icon.